I'd say it's safe to say Rush has been an integral part of my musical life ever since, I don't know, 7th or 8th grade. Back then, I was a slave to pop music like so many other unfortunate souls. Until one day, my friend's dad picked me up from school and he was blasting the 2112 Overture in his car, and it just blew me away. The drumming was incredible, the bass playing was incredible, the vocals were just ridiculous, and I'm like, what is this incredible music? And he's like, this is Rush 2112, the greatest album ever made. And I mean, it's cool and all, but there's a couple weak tracks on that album after checking it out. My personal favorite Rush album is Hemispheres. I feel it's the strongest album in terms of all the songs being consistently good. But anyways, I was blown away. I became a big Rush fan. Learning La Via Strangiata was basically the song that molded me into the guitarist I am today, and experimenting with Geddy's bass parts, making up my own bass lines for certain Rush songs, basically molded me into the bassist I am today. And just for the record, I don't remember La Via Strangiato anymore. At one point, I could play it beginning to end, and at the time, considering I was like in between a beginner and intermediate, it took me about 6 months to learn that song. Well, to be fair, it is kind of a hard song. Kind of. But anyways, I've been wanting to see Rush live for a long time, but due to reasons, I missed them on the Time Machine tour. I missed them on the Clockwork Angels tour. And now this is their final major North American tour. So I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm dropping everything and I'm going. And I went, and the concert ended literally like 35 minutes ago. So while the ideas and memories are still fresh in my head, I'm just going to splurge out everything I saw and how I felt about it, basically. So I went with my friend and my friend's dad, not the same friend, my friend's dad from the Who concert. You can check out that concert review if you want, but different group of friend and dad pair. So his dad saw Rush live in, I believe, 75. Really, really long time ago. Like, probably back when he was my age or even younger. But he said he doesn't remember a whole lot since it was really long ago, and also he was probably inebriated, so that doesn't help. And he can't remember whether or not John Rutsey or Neil Peart was the drummer. So if John Rutsey was the drummer, wait, that would put it at 74. But yeah, so it's been 40 years since he saw them live, and of course I had to ask him, do you want to see him again? And he was like, boom, let's go. So we got there, and it turns out our seats were on the balcony on the very far left side, like audience left, right next to stage right, but like 80 feet above stage right. So if you, well, maybe not that high, so we got like a peek backstage, like behind the big projector. Like when this concert comes out on DVD, or at least when this tour comes out on DVD, it's probably all going to be filmed from a front-facing perspective, where the screen is in front and then it comes up and the band's playing. But I saw them like 45 seconds before the show even started. I saw Geddy come up and he like puts his bass on and he's like talking to the roadie techie people, and then Neil walks up behind his drum kit and assumes his throne, and then they start playing, and then the curtain comes up. Now granted, there's only a few songs on Clockwork Angels that I really enjoy. Headlong Flight was the only one of the three they played that I actually liked. And I liked that Neil did a drum solo. And since Neil no longer has the stamina to do an 8-minute drum solo anymore, they split it up into 2 drum solos for this concert. The first one was only in the 3rd song, Headlong Flight, but I expected it to be longer, which kind of disappointed me. But he did kind of make up for it with the 2nd solo, which at least felt longer than it actually was, so you could savor it more. So, there was that. Far Cry, I used to really like that song, and then they just did it, and I still kind of remembered all the words, so I just sang along with what I knew. Working Them Angels, I've never been a big fan of, so I just kind of leisurely sat through that. Same with Animate. Although it is a cool song, I still kind of leisurely sat through that. And then Roll the Bones. Okay. Roll the Bones. It's like, I don't want to say it's a classic case of so bad it's good. It's more like it's so cheesy it's good. Like, just in general, the and that's what I did during the chorus. Yeah. Oh, and the rap. Oh, the rap by itself is so cheesy, but at least they kind of made it awesome by having cameos by Dave Grohl, Les Claypool, and among other celebrities whom I do not have the memory of naming at the time, but they were there, and that sorta made it more awesome. And it is a cool song live, and I see why they like to do it live, even though it is kind of a cheesy song. Well, it's my guilty pleasure Rush song. I personally really enjoy it, even though my friend's dad, it's like his least favorite Rush song. But I'm just like, hey, I just like nudge him, hey, it's your favorite Rush song. And he just gives you a look like, and then they jump all the way back to Grease Under Pressure and play Distant Early Warning. And by the way, in case you didn't know, this whole concert is in reverse chronological order. So they jump from 90 to 84, and they played Distant Early Warning, and I was surprised that they played that because I didn't expect them to play it. And if you're, also I should probably mention, I like to look up the set list to shows before I go to the show, since I've gone to shows before, like Dream Theater, for example, where I've wanted them to play 1 or 2 songs that I was really looking forward to, and then they didn't play it, and then I was just really disappointed because I was really looking forward to the songs they never played. But at least with this show, I saw what they were doing ahead of time, and I was just like, they're doing all these awesome gems they never play live, and I'll get to that later. But anyways, Distant Early Warning, it's not one of their bigger songs, but I personally really like it. One of their better synth-era songs. So I was singing along to that one. Subdivisions, they ended the first set with Subdivisions. Gotta love Subdivisions. It's the only song that my friend, not my friend's dad, likes from the first set, since, I mean, Subdivisions is always awesome live. You can't not love Subdivisions. It's just a great, and for most people who aren't popular and awesome, relatable song. So that was cool. Rush's breaks in between sets are really long. At least I'm personally used to breaks in between sets being like 15 minutes, but theirs was almost half an hour, which just felt a little too long for me. But when they finally came back on stage, and I knew they were coming back because I can see all the little shadows moving around down there, and they think they're being sneaky and the audience doesn't suspect them, but I can see you there. Uh, so they play the South Park thing where Carmen's like, I'm Gailey and I will... I can't do my Cartman voice right now. I've thrown my vocal cords out singing along to these songs. And also I haven't had any water yet. So, which I should probably do, but there is no water within an arm's reach of me, so I'm not going to bother till I'm done recording this. But yeah, Tom Sawyer live is pretty fun. I'm sorry, I'm being carried away. This is what happens to me late at night. I just lose attention span and stuff. Yeah. And just like, before I go any further, I should probably mention, since I've spent so many hours of my life listening to Rush, looking up interviews with them, I saw the documentary Beyond the Lighted Stage, like, and you just spend all your time, like, years, I don't want to say obsessed with these guys, because, like, there was, like, a 2-year period in my life where 95% of what I listened to was Rush, and then I, like, moved on to other things, but I still loved Rush, you know, like, you never let go. So seeing them live, it's exciting, but at the same time, it's also kind of weird, because, like the very first concert I ever went to was a Weird Al concert, and when Weird Al first came out on stage, I was just awestruck, blown away. That's the guy right there, the guy who's made all this awesome music, and I've spent countless hours of my life listening to it. The guy who's made me laugh so many times, that's him, right there, in front of me, like, several dozen yards away. And he's performing for me, along with a few other couple thousand people. But that's beside the point. Because, like, with Rush, it might just be because I'm used to it now and I've been to so many concerts, but, like, I was really getting hyped up for this show, and now that I'm actually there, just, I don't know, just being in Neil and Geddy's and Alex's presence, I don't know, it just feels strange. It's not a bad kind of strange, but I don't know. But at least live, I was able to better see Neil's parts, because there's one thing I don't like about Rush's music in general, and it's that Neil is such a freaking machine, such an awesome technical perfectionist, and he's so polyrhythmic and just involved, and I feel like a lot of his drum parts just get buried in the mix of Rush's songs, like underneath the guitar and bass and vocals and synthesizers, along with other instruments. And when you see it live, you can actually see him doing all this crazy stuff. Like, and I spent like half the show looking at Neil, because I'm just like, this dude is a machine. His level of precision is like within an atom, to quote, paraphrasing quote of Jack Black from the Beyond the Lighted Stage documentary. But I did notice that now that Neil has adopted a more like jazzy, fluid drumming style, he has changed some of the parts to the earlier songs just a little bit. It's nothing too noticeable, but I like kind of picked up on a few things. And as far as mistakes go, there was one big mistake during Natural Science, and I'll get to that in a second, where you know how the main theme of that song is do 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 do. Well, Alex made a mistake where he hit the second note the third note like a semitone too low. So it's like do do do. No, it was before the first one. I'm trying to remember exactly where it was. Do 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 do, and it was just like one little mistake, but it was a very noticeable mistake. Neil, the only mistake I saw with Neil was that I don't even know if you would call this a mistake. During the opening song, "The Anarchist," he threw his drumstick up in the air, and he only did it once, and I expected him to do it more during the show. Uh, but he threw it up in the air and it went a little too far over, so he had to like lean over his kit to catch it. I don't know if that was intentional or a mistake, but all I know is that he wound up throwing it into the audience, and some lucky person in the front row got a free Neil Peart drumstick. And Getty's pretty solid in terms of his playing. Neil sounds better than ever. Getty sounds better than ever. Although Getty, in terms of his playing at least, Getty's voice, I came into the concert with the expectation that Getty can't sing anymore. And for the most part, I was kind of wrong. Like, the first set, his voice held up very well, but the second set, it started to wane to the point where in the encore, it was really like kind of raspy. It could be one of two things. It's either his voice wearing out over the course of the night, or it could be like because it's reverse chronological order and Getty's voice has deepened over the years, he's also changed his singing style to match his new voice, so he sings on the new stuff better than he does the old stuff. And also, other than that one mistake Alex made, Alex was doing really, really well with his playing. I hear he has arthritis in his hands and feet now, and he's been like receiving injections for them. I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but on the monitor shots when it showed close-ups of Alex's hands, his fingers just looked like sausages. Like, they were so fat. Like, his fingers were just like, his hands didn't even look like they had skin on them. It looked more like leathery pig skin. Like, it looked like he was wearing gloves over his hands, and it just looked really weird. But at the same time, he was still playing everything perfectly. So, I really hope that this isn't a hindrance on his playing in the future, and that he hopefully gets better with it. Like, Stu Ham, one of the most awesome living bassists, in my opinion, he, like, back in the 90s had wrist problems that was starting to affect his playing, and he went to a hand doctor, or whatever it's called, I don't know medical terms, and he got it fixed right up and he was back to normal. So, I guess whatever help Alex can get, I hope he's able to keep playing as long as he possibly can, as well as he does. And Neil, even though they say Neil has tendonitis in his shoulders and it's making him hard to play, he was a monster out there. Just, his drumming's better than ever. And even during the solo, which I'll get to, I'll rant about that later, whatever. Back to the songs. They did YYZ. I know they've been cycling on this tour with the Moving Pictures songs. One night they'll do Camera Eye, the next night they'll do Red Barchetta, the next night they'll do YYZ. Well, they did YYZ here, and I love YYZ, and it was awesome to see that live. Do 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 do. Yeah, and then they did 3 songs from Permanent Waves, which is a real treat. Spirit of Radio, awesome song. Natural Science, which I didn't expect them to do, but it's still a pretty cool song. Not one of their greatest, but it's got some... I love the opening to the song. Like, the first minute and a half, the acoustic part is really cool. And Jacob's Ladder, I was that was a treat. I love that song. I have ever since I got Exit Stage Left, which was one of the first Rush albums I ever got. I heard that song, and by the way, the live version sounds way better than the studio version. Uh, that song I just thought was so awesome, and I saw, hey, they've never played this live ever again. And then I saw 35 years later they're playing it live again, and I'm like, oh, cool, I can see this live now. And I learned, I never learned the song in its entirety, but I picked up some bass parts from it, some guitar parts from it. It's got some really cool riffs in it, really cool timing in it, like the alternating 5/4 6/4 part, and then in the second half it's the alternating 6/8 7/8. The yeah, that's really cool. Um, so those were a treat. And then the Hemispheres Prelude, I love the Hemispheres Prelude. Even though Geddy can't sing anymore, and I find it hilarious that he struggles on the word struggle, like, when our weary world was young, the struggle! Oh, why am I doing my old man voice? Geddy's not that old. I mean, well, they did, to be fair, make a joke about it at the end of the first set. Like, we're going to take a break due to our advanced age, but we'll be back. Yay! So, that was a treat. Although I do wish they would have done the trees. That would have been really cool to see live. La Via would have been cool, but I've heard La Via Strangiato so many times in my life that, I don't know, it's just kind of boring to me now. Even when I've heard it, like, years later, I'm just like, I know it's awesome, but why do I want to hit the skip button? Well, it's just because I've heard it so many times. Don't get me wrong, it's an awesome song. The whole Hemispheres album is awesome. In my opinion, it's their best album. But yeah, on my channel there's a playlist called My Favorite Albums, and Hemispheres is in there. I only have like my top 9 or my top 10 albums in there, but you know they're good if they're in there. And it's the only Rush album in there, so you know it's good. Farewell to Kings. I like how they did Cygnus X1 because I thought that song was really cool when I first heard it. I was gonna say when it first came out. That song came out like 18 years before I was born. But yeah, that song is really cool. Like do 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 do. And really, the only thing I was looking forward to with that song was that the drum solo is in there. I don't know if that's a spoiler for anyone waiting for where the drum solo is, but yeah, the drum solo is in Cygnus X1, Book 1, The Voyage, in between parts 1 and 3, because at this show they only played parts 1 and 3, but I remember looking up like handheld smartphone recording of a show somewhere on YouTube just to see what a couple of the songs might sound like, and the solo in that version was only like 4.5 minutes, but the solo here felt longer than that, like at least 5 minutes. So that was a treat, and he did all the Purdyisms, and I lost it at the cowbell part, because there's like one 20-second part where he's just doing all the cowbells, and I'm just like, needs more cowbell. And then when the solo was over, I like leaned over to my friend, and he's like, and I'm like, so does your life feel slightly more complete now? now that you witnessed a Neil Peart drum solo in person, in the flesh, and he just like laughed his ass off. So then, since Geddy cannot sing like he used to, he's like destroyed his voice over the years. I blame smoking personally. That'll ruin your vocal cords. But he didn't sing the lyrics of the final part. So they did Closer to the Heart. Gotta love Closer to the Heart. Everybody sing along. And the man who hold high places must be the ones who start. Yeah. So that song's always fun live, and from the beginning of the show, because I was kind of like seated up to the, like, in the balcony way up to the left by stage right, I saw all of Alex's guitars, and I saw his double neck in the guitar rack, and I knew, oh, Alex's double neck is there. You know what that means? They're gonna play Xanadu, and what do you know? They played Xanadu. And Xanadu is one of my favorite Rush songs, and it was awesome to see it live. And Geddy's double neck is back, the Rickenbacker 4080. I used to think that was the coolest thing when I was like 13 years old. But now that I'm a little older, and I own a double neck now, I know they're a big nuisance. And you really, unless you absolutely need it, you're better off without one. But yeah, it was really cool to see Xanadu live. I was just going nuts during that. And then after that, the big one, 2012. Wait, 2012 was 3 years ago. 2112. This is why I'm trying not to do these concert reviews right after the concert, because when I'm fried after a long day and seeing a concert, I just can't think anymore. And my concert reviews are usually better when I have more coherent thoughts, when I'm more awake than I am right now. Just look at my Mastodon and Clutch review to see just how out of it I am after a show. I feel like I'm not doing this review any justice right now, but I'm still gonna pull through to the end because we only got 4 albums left. So, my friend's dad, he got Rush, he got Fly By Night, and 2112, and then those are his 3 favorite Rush albums, and he's like, I really want them to do stuff from these 3 albums. And I'm like, well then, you're gonna be in for a treat now, aren't you? They did 4 of the 7 parts of 2112. Again, awesome to see live. The Overture, Temples of Syrinx, the presentation, and the grand finale. Of course, everyone is contractually obligated to go during the Overture, roughly 3 minutes 30 seconds in to about 4 minutes and 10 seconds in, roughly that part, the but yeah, the presentation, again, I hate to be targeting Geddy's voice because it's such an easy target right now, but the presentation sounded kind of weak just because when he's voicing as himself, the discoverer of the guitar, he has to sing in a low voice, and since his voice is naturally lowered over the years, that sounded good. But when he sings as the priest in the Temples of Syrinx, he has to sing really high in that part. And he's like, I need water. water. I didn't drink anything at the show because I didn't want to get up to go to the bathroom and miss anything. But yeah. Temples of Syrinx, always awesome. Overture, always awesome. Presentation, what was kind of lacking with the vocals was made up for with the solo at the end. And then the grand finale, gotta love the grand finale, which I personally believe is the most epic last 45 seconds of a song ever. Just the ending of 2112, the grand finale, the finale of the grand finale is just so heavy, it's just so driving, it's just so in your face, and it builds and builds and builds and builds until chaos ensues, and then the feedback comes in and the cavalry comes in and they destroy the Red Star Federation and assume control. That's just like, ugh. So then they went off stage, and I don't know why artists today, just in general, musical artists say, thank you, good night, and then they go off stage when everybody knows they're just going to come back on stage in like 2 or 3 minutes and do a couple more songs. That's when you say good night. And just, I don't know. Because if they're trying to fake us out, it doesn't work anymore. But that's beside the point. And I don't think Rush has done a straight-up Caressive Steel song live probably since the 70s. Based on what I've seen, Lakeside Park has not been performed live since 1978, which was either the Farewell to Kings tour or the Hemispheres tour. And apparently Geddy isn't a big fan of this song, but I guess they brought it back just for nostalgia's sake. But, I mean, the song itself, it's like, I feel it only appeals to a very certain group of people. The people who grew up in Willowdale, the neighborhood in Toronto where Rush grew up in. So, other than that, all it really does is paint a picture of a place. I mean, it sounds like a pleasant place, but other than that, I don't know, it doesn't really do much for me. It's just kind of generic early Rush. And then they did Anthem, at which my friend and my friend's dad were psyched about because they love Fly By Night. I personally love Bytorn the Snow Dog. They wanted to hear Fly By Night the song, but they love Anthem just as much, and when they heard Anthem, they were just like, and they were singing along all the words, and for the most part of the show, I was the one going crazy out of the three of us, since I'm a fan of the whole Rush discography, although I do like the early stuff more. And then, they just kind of like sat quietly through the whole first set, except for my friend who sang on Subdivisions. And then when the stuff they liked came on, that's when they went nuts. And then, and I'm surprised Geddy actually took the chance of, on the second chorus, Wonders in the World, I can't sing high when I don't have any water in my body. But, yeah, he did that high note, wow. And I looked up footage of the song just to see Geddy's voice and if they changed the song structure at all, which they did. They shortened it considerably. But during the first chorus, Geddy's like, Wonders in the World, they rot. And I'm just like, oh, come on, Ged, you can do better than that. And the second chorus, he's like, one of those in the world, they and I was like, woo. And then they did What You're Doing. Actually, before that, I'm gonna say, Alex's guitar that he played on Fly By Night was like this pink Telecaster with flowers on it, and I'm like, what? And also the guitar tone he used on that song, I don't know if he was playing in the rhythm setting or what, but it just sounded like a really mellow tone, not really the upfront, crunchy sound that their Led Zeppelin influenced early stuff is known for. But anyways, they did What You're Doing, and the disco ball comes down. I'm guessing because when in their early days they would play a lot of bars and clubs and stuff, but I don't know, to me it just sounded like a lot of self-depreciation, self-deprecation. I can't think of words right now, but because like I remember them saying like in the early days, like at least their very first show was a school dance, and like when they played, everybody just kind of huddled in the opposite corner of the auditorium, away from them, and that seems like such an awkward memory. Why would they want to bring that back? I don't know if it's supposed to be them playing in their living room or what, but I don't know. But they did What You're Doing, which is very Zeppelin-y. Making up my own words. Yeah, I mean, it's alright. I was never a big fan of it. And of course, they had to end with Working Man. Gotta end the Rush show with Working Man. Working Man live is awesome. And since I also love the song, it was awesome to see it live. And my friend's dad at the end was like, oh man, now I've seen Working Man for the first time in 40 years. I saw Working Man live again. And he was just so happy about it. And then they did like 15 seconds at the very end, like a little tease of Garden Road. And the riff, I don't know if it's like Alex using some kind of weird pedal on it, but it just like flange or something, but it just sounded really like not like the recorded version that's you can find on YouTube, which as far as I know is the only version available which was recorded live somewhere. There's no studio version of that song. But yeah, like, just in general, just watching the whole show, like, I feel it would have been awesome to see Rush either, like, somewhere in the 70s, between 74 and 79, between Rush and Hemispheres, because that's when I feel they were in their prime, and, like, when they were at their absolute best. Like, just both, like, as far as taking risks, musically, and just in general, the energy they brought to the table back then. Because, like, don't get me wrong, they're still fantastic live, but just based on live footage I've seen, it's just, I don't know, it just seems like it's not the same. Like, if anything, I feel like they took a risk with this R40 tour, because they're basically saying, and they were apprehensive about doing the tour, but you can just tell, they're saying to themselves, we know Neil is not in his best physical shape, and that could affect his stamina and his playing. We know Alex is getting arthritis in his hands, and that can be detrimental to his playing. and Getty's voice is not what it used to be, so they're not in their peak form anymore. But you know what? We love what we're doing, and we're gonna please our fans, and despite our ailments, we are going to throw the best damn show we can, even if it kills us. And I mean, considering that they were like, what are they, like 61, 62 years old now? Like, Getty was jumping around like he had so much energy still. And Neil, like I said, he's such a boss. He's just like, bop. Like, ugh. I could watch him all day, just doing his thing. And Alex, even despite, like, his abnormally fat fingers, and seriously, like, look at footage of this tour. His fingers are like sausages. They're so fat. It's just like I expected to hear, like, I don't know, like, just a lot of brr, 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 like, you know, like, when you play guitar, you, like, just, like, barring everything all at once. But, no, he was awesome. And, you know what? For their age, and for considering the obstacles they have right now, and the fact that they have, like, stable family lives, and they're, like, upper middle class, dare I say, working men. Rush references. But, like, they know what they're doing, and they still rock. Despite the fact that they're not in their prime anymore, they say, you know what? We know, but we don't care. Let's do it. Yeah, and I expected Getty's voice to not be as to just be, like, totally painful to listen to the whole time, but he made it work. I don't know how, but he did it. Like, and during the whole show, I just had a big smile on my face. Like, during the whole show, I just couldn't stop smiling. Like, I didn't really stand up during the show. I wasn't like one of these people, but still, like, when I knew a big cymbal crash was coming, or I knew, like, during the Hemispheres Prelude, the 9 notes Getty plays during the sparse part, derp, 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 I was just like the whole time. And then, like, the bells that chime during Jacob's Ladder, I just got so into it. Like, when it climbs, like, the D, E, F sharp before the do 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 do, I was like, and that's probably an understatement. And of course, when Neil does, like, a big drum crescendo, I just, like, air drum along. But yeah, like, even though, like I said, I would still probably say Primus was the best show I ever went to, just because I had so much fun at that show. There was so much energy there, and I knew the songs. The performers had the energy, and it was just the right chemistry. And the same thing with Rush, just the right chemistry was there for an awesome show. And since I'm really kind of blanking out with things to say, leave me a comment below, and if I feel it is worthy of being responded to, I will respond to it, and we can continue the conversation down there. Like, did you see Rush? Was it on the R40 tour? Was it on another tour? What you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What things did you notice? What things did you think were awesome? What things did you think that they could have done better that would have made it more awesome? Just in general, leave me your thoughts, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say. I am glad I saw Rush live, and since this is only their last major tour, that doesn't mean they're not going to do smaller tours or like one-time shows. I want to see them at least one more time in my life. I feel like Rush is, I don't want to say they're the last of a dying breed, but I feel like I need to see them before, they're all dead. Because, like, this kind of prog rock and prog metal, it's not really around anymore. Like, modern prog metal tends to deviate too far in one direction. Either it's too prog rock oriented, like Yes, Genesis, Jethro Tull, or it's too heavy. It's too like Opethy or Meshuggah-y. Like, it's still progressive, but it's not progressive in the same way Rush is. Rush struck that right balance. And the only other band that really strikes that balance is in my opinion at least, Dream Theater. And even then, they tend to slide a little bit more to the metal side of things. But at the same time, they've also done some really light stuff that Rush would never do. So again, they're on like both extremes. But Rush still, like, they have their sound, and their sound is that unique balance. Even with like the synth era, which many actually would argue is their worst musical era, they still kept their own distinct sound. It's not like they totally sold out or anything. But yeah, I'm really tired and I'm gonna go to bed. So, leave me a comment below and I'll get back to you when I can. And Rush is awesome. Thanks, guys. You guys rock.